sorting through fireworks as they explode, wanting to rearrange them against the thick, smothering sky. Skybone makes an echo like a Buddhist bowl, all the cracked fireworks bouncing in, and the still hot slag iron falling to the ground. Slow motion stars breed a fever in the night. Two smart synapses think they found a bridge. All the self-important thoughts abandoned and forgot. How very big is the inside of a head, especially in the night, especially with all the blazing fireworks currently ignited. Light has made a bonfire of my brain. Sleep ain't got a chance of cooling down again. Afternoon. It's Thursday, 4 o'clock, and this is Poetry Show number 30, which I suppose makes sense. 2 months, 60 days, one every other day, 30 shows. So, I hope you're well, I hope you're good. Thank you for joining me and watching, or listening. You don't have to watch. I mean, just carry on with what you're doing and hopefully have me on in the background. I hope you enjoy it. I called this session Mind, or Mind ? These poems might have something to do with thoughts and the way our brains work, or they might not. You'll see how we go. This is a poem called Bad Bed. Rising alone again from the dream of a kiss, clad in a nighttime of disquiet and uncertainty, wonder why there's none to share a moment like this. The child knew. He warned me so. I carried on. Doubt becomes the skeleton I'm hanging on. Bliss has been offered at a price and took away. Product of a brain that only grew upon itself. The child knew. He warned me so. I carried on. A touch of dream in that one. Leash. When the air is thick and unslept, I find myself with you again. This is when thought, eager, overtrained, likes to flex and pout, likes to muscle up against my soft mind. Eyes open to what I'm breathing in, blind to any other scent. Again I'm caught, hard, by the wild dark your skin poured out, fire-licked, hungry on the wind, unkind to a man in need of sleep. Holding tight to the stained wakefulness through a dawn's fist, I would stagger out, hands upon the wall, breathe to my most empty lung. Then you might release me for a day, for a week, kissed by a strange need, and your next midnight call. knife. I have this knife, not my own. It was invited. It was wielded with flair. I thought, this will not kill me. It makes it difficult to curl into a ball. I have to breathe around it. No one offers to remove it. We all understand hammerage. I hope they no longer need to carry knives. And I'm grateful, of course, for metaphor. I'm just reading these. I'm not necessarily saying anything in between them, am I? Often I do. I'm not sure. I come to each one. I think, I don't know what to say to introduce this one. They're not written together in any particular way, although put into this sequence they might tell a kind of an arc to them. A certain sense of anguish, whether it's emotional or mental, whether it's all internal or related to someone outside. I think that sort of plays and goes and is never quite sure. I certainly had times, I'm sure you have too, when the emotion has been sat on so profoundly. When it comes out with a rush. But in the meantime, there's a brooding, moody mix-up in the mind, as if the entire apparatus of the brain has been engaged in keeping you from the feeling. This is something called the spring flood. She found him, stood, echo-armed against the spring flood, white whipping water on his red chest, leaping over open-lipped defiance, legs winnowed and a tremble, bone bare to the blast. And she could not make him hear her fear of his being washed away, down the ravines and the cataracts, cut into rock by centuries, eaten by spitting teeth, water's stubborn way in. Naked numbness pressed between an eroding stream, she clutching four-limbed around his long neck and waist upon his back. Wet words swallowed down again beside his fountain ear. Beneath that roar drowned in river haste. I thought to quench you, he said, quitted to the riverside. Edged blue with cold, burning crimson coal at the core. Breath welling into lungs once more, dripping head thrown back against a thigh. Wet dripping to the floor. Spring flood. And to end this first sequence, dream. When such a dream comes, erupting from the psyche's floor, all the unheard coalescing, particles of the belly disinterring, fractures in the skull exuding gold and precious stones, blood flowing backwards to disengage from the barbs. Such a dream. presses swan's weight upon a gut. Crying kitten weeping through a wounded eye. Shadowed elevator door opening beneath. Matriarch of Africa offering a kiss. Climbing out of such a dream. Sweat clinging to the inside of the skin. And all the brain a quiet fire. Bruising from the skull. And light sits there knowing. You would take these contracts by the hand, tear them, throw them into dust, ask, see me now? I am not what I was. My belly has dissolved. Learn again how to see, how to step into a foreign dance. Dressed in the clothes you found when you woke. Got a sequence here of 5-6 poems, all written independently, maybe telling a bit of an arc of being out of it a little bit, emotionally, mentally, sleeping, not sleeping, that confusion. How are you doing? Hope you're all right. I don't know who might be watching. Kathy's watching. Hello, darling. And Saz, hello. It makes me so glad that you're there. So I can't always tell who's watching or how many's watching, if anybody's watching. So to have you send a message is very heartwarming. I've been reading friends' poems as part of this, in lieu of having a special guest. They're published poems, and often to their surprise. And today I want to read from a friend called Trévien, from her book Brain Fugue, who I met very briefly when we performed together in Worcester at the library there. She was reading from this Brain Fugue to promote it. It had just been published. I was reading from the Knotsman. And what can I say? Claire's French, and a lot of her poetry talks about the mixture of living in two languages, living in two worlds, two countries. A fair bit about how the brain works, how it affects us, that thing called mental health. And so I'd like to read a couple of hers from this, the first of which is called Sick or Sad. Since we cannot speak of the landscape of the crowd, how it turns from hot to cold in a blink, drains my veins dry, makes my body a ghost of itself. You ask me if my absence was due to being sick or sad. I use the euphemism not well to blanket over the trees, the hills, the path that stops being a path, the carpet of burned leaves catching the wheels of trains, the snow duvet that protects the flowers or kills them. I can't remember which it is. My sadness is sick. My sickness is sad. My sadness has been unplugged from triggers you could relate to and lives in a different city now. My sickness is so connected to my sadness, and I cannot tell you which is the chicken, which is the egg. Here is an ankle sprained after it gave way on a flat surface like plastic lit by a lighter. See how it sends my sadness flying and cracked its screen. Here is my stomach, full of rams fighting about fleeing. The collection's called Brain Fugue, and most of the titles in the collection have brain in them, like Broker Brain, Brain as Forest, Brain Freeze, Code Switching Brain, House of Brains. The one I'd like to read is called Brain as Museum. Nothing thrown out, simply rotated and stored. Today I present the 1998 collection, curated by an unfortunate encounter with my family. It'll stay open for a few months until I quietly retire it to the stockroom. One day the collection is there, another it has vanished, replaced by an already sold out exhibit. It's as if last season had never happened. Each day, in tiny ways, the rooms expand, big as a stone dropped in a pond, as deep as a shell groused in grains. It's got labels, screeched so hard into paper the pens pierced through. Do not look down, there are more on the ground, with the names of artists I don't recognise, and a bonfire out back, and the ones I've disowned. Bring your own headphones, avoid the gift shop and its small Eiffel Towers. That was Brain as Museum by Trévien, Brain Fugue. Published by Verve Poetry Press, and I'll include the details of that in the notes, in the comments. Well done. I used to live in an attic room, and it was lovely being that close to the weather. Rain on the rooftops. Echoing very much the way thoughts land on the brain, ideas, notions, confusions, storms. It's a very short one. Came out of that, called Way to Go. Rain. Like the running of horses across my roof. Like the agitation of a restless mind. In time, these drops will form a runnel, and so force this inert man into a lightning flash flood. The weight of water washing the waiting away. Which drop? Which horse? A moment of indecision. There have been times, not to make light of things, but it certainly has been times when the realization of my own ridiculousness has helped to pull me out of such places. A nice little bit of comedy. This one's called Pratfall. With this massive weight of thought, undressed in my entire wardrobe, I make it through the door. On my mind is every moment of my life, and, to be thorough, those that weren't, and yours, besides the darker ones. Wondering where I'll find my next breath, geeing up my blood to pump a bit. Not far to go. There's a step I don't see, haven't fallen on before. I don't dare to trip, it's someone else's. This spontaneity is gravity's fault. Everything spills. Splat! It doesn't save my life, but still, it's nice to be reminded. Of course, we don't always have that levity. This little scenario came into my thoughts, a little picture of an interaction between characters. Only when I finished it did I think to call it Mind. Let's see what you make of that. Mind. As the hero roared, molten metal spewing from their mouth, from the Godhead kept us safe. I ran to the child, crying quiet in the corner, in the shade, took them in my arms, felt their tears on my cheek, little weight, wide mouth drawn down in fear. Hand then placed on the hero's back, sheltered by the broad shoulders, cool beside their legs, placed invisible between the gold of their broad chest, their protecting bellow, and the silver sleep of this protected child. I wonder at I alone, and what my role will be, the battle done. Perhaps it's about that benevolent, neutral voice that says, however you are, this is okay, I've got you, go through it, you're fine, you're safe. Which has been with me a number of times just when I needed it, and allowed the passage of the storm and allowed passing through the storm, not trying to force it to be one thing or another, but just watching, witnessing, and saying this is okay, and coming out the other side. Carrying on with the thought of a storm. Stormraven. Some of you recognise the references to this already, but I'll say more about it afterwards. Stormraven. Aloft, the lights of Loki's flame break the brows, brooding gaze of the heavy clouds, clouts the air with thunder's strokes and storm's boasts. Raven steers with steady beat away across the wind, whirling free with king's cargo, canny thought, mindfulness and memory, making its road with steady beats through storm's best. Woden on his seat waits in slumber, fireless eye, his face a sheet of unscored ice, easy to read, without wit, without thought, naught to recall, till night's teeth gives up to grim a god's mind. What birds these to bear such lore, hold the meaning, Hugin, Moonin, makers' pets, pelted black, pelted now with northern gusts and western rain, ravens caught in weird storms, study hard, gain a store of strong learning, wisdom in the beak, born in trust and into Odin's ear. All-Father winking. Mixing up Odin and Woden, two separate names for him. Grim is another name for Odin. All sat there, as the bird's thought and memory fly in a storm, catch the winds, bringing him back wisdom. Odin again in this one, god of the mind, god of thought, god of language and speech, god of poetry. First thought last. First, there is the fury. Then there is the thought. Odin knows this. Give me runes! In his every scream, falling back for them. I am air, I am spirit, I am wild for roar, I make them sacred. I give them up, he said, myself for myself. Rope around his neck, no wind for you hanging from the tree, no ground for you swirling in the press of the eagle's wings, all fury elsewhere. Bleeding, starving, gasping. First there is the fury, welter of rage, without thought, without meaning. Give me runes, give me reasons, make of me a greater god. Raven, bring me thought of the dead men. Raven, bring me memory of all the dead women. Rage like an 8-legged steed, ridden by a wiser one, ravens on the wing. First there is the fury, finally there is thought. Odin knows this. Your face is a calming of my mind, and sets a soft lid over turmoil, the cooking in its pot. You seat me beside the fire again, separating day from night. This is our next meal only, and there will be others. Only so much set upon the plate, of a certain intensity and heat. You give me food as clothing, find myself dressed, and from the inside, and sleep in the aroma of your eyes. That one called Cook. Just one more for today. Just to say thank you for being with me and watching and listening, and I hope you've enjoyed. Fingers crossed I'll be doing more in a couple of days. Fair warning though, I've got a few days filming coming up, it seems. Fingers crossed. So that might disrupt the pattern a little bit. It'll mean I will appear suddenly unbearded and without the locks. It's kind of a shame, I've gotten quite attached to them. I did keep seeing things at the corner of my head, corner of my vision, thinking there was someone there, and it turned out just to be my hair. The video for this will be on the timeline afterwards if you want to watch back or catch up with anything. And I'll put the set list into the comments and mention of Claire's book. And I hope to see you again soon. And I hope to be reading some more to you soon. This is a very short one. For the peace of mind and the hope and the knowing thing that things do heal, called Tears of Joy. I weep for the mended bone. I weep for the closed skin. I weep for blood clear. I weep for the heart in its pace. I weep for the thoughts set at rest. I weep for the memory eased. I weep for my beloved asleep. I weep for their wakening eye.